Welcome back to A Twist of Faith. I'm your host, Alex Parkview. Last week, we started off the deep dive of the Satanic Bible with the preface to and the first two chapters of the Book of Satan, the Infernal Diatribe from the Satanic Bible. This week, we're going to pick up where we left off. We're going to cover chapters 3 through 5 of the Infernal Diatribes. Would have gotten probably a little further last week, but I went off on a bit of a tangent in Chapter 2 because LaVey made a really interesting point. If you missed that and you don't know what I'm talking about, feel free to go back and listen to the previous week's episode, available on all the platforms here. Also, we're on YouTube now. Share, subscribe, recommend us to a friend. Just listen, share, subscribe, rate, review. Consider donating if you're so touched. It's always appreciated, never required. But we're going to go ahead and finish out the Infernal Diatribes, the Book of Satan, from the Satanic Bible in our Deep Dive series. So stick around for that. The Book of Satan, Chapter 3, verses 1 through 9. Love one another, it has been said, is the supreme law. But what power made it so? Upon what rational authority does the gospel of love rest? Why should I not hate mine enemies? If I love them, does that not place me at their mercy? Is it natural for enemies to do good unto each other? And what is good? Can the torn and bloody victim love the blood-splashed jaws that rend him limb from limb? Are we not all predatory animals by instinct? If humans ceased wholly from preying upon each other, could they continue to exist? Is not lust and carnal desire a more truthful term to describe love when applied to the continuance of the race? Is not the love of the fawning scriptures simply a euphemism for sexual activity, or was the great teacher a glorifier of eunuchs? Love your enemies and do good to them that hate and use you. Is this not the despicable philosophy of the spaniel that rolls upon its back when kicked? Hate your enemies with a whole heart, and if a man smite you on one cheek, smash him on the other. Smite him hip and thigh, for self-preservation is the highest law. He who turns the other cheek is a cowardly dog. Give blow for blow, scorn for scorn, doom for doom, with compound interest liberally added thereunto. Eye for eye, tooth for tooth, eye fourfold, 100-fold. Make yourself a terror to your adversary, and when he goeth his way, he will possess much additional wisdom to ruminate over. Thus shall you make yourself respected in all the walks of life, and your spirit, your immortal spirit, shall live not in an intangible paradise, but in the brains and sinews of those whose respect you have gained. Now, if you remember last week, I talked about how LaVey openly scorns and mocks the Golden Rule, and that is brought up later, like line for line, word for word, but it's just fascinating to me going back through the Bible with you guys, how he kind of points it out along the way. Love one another, supreme law, what made it so? What rational authority does the gospel of love? Like, he's saying it's irrational. And, I mean, if we're looking at human nature, which is LaVey's way, because he's all about human nature, the here and now. Fuck the idea of an afterlife. You're going to get yours while you're here, while you still can. So he's saying, why should you love people if it doesn't benefit you in some way? Why would enemies be good to each other? What defines good? Now, LaVey, in his teachings and his ruminations, he had always said that good was whatever gave him the most self-fulfillment here on earth, the fulfillment of the ego, the desires, the physical, the here and the now. So when he's asking what is good, I think he's looking more at the universal, like good versus evil. What is good? Can a torn and bloody victim love the one who made him so? Like, if somebody beats the fuck out of you, you're not likely to be like, come here and give me a hug, buddy, through your fucking blood-splattered teeth, if you're able to speak at all after you just took that kind of beating. He asks, are we not all predatory animals? In verse 4 there. If we ceased wholly from preying upon each other, would we exist? Now, that's interesting, because we're supposed to coexist with other races, religions, genders, etc. in modern society. But LaVey states that we prey on each other in order to exist. And I don't think he means necessarily in a predatory, like, life and death manner of preying upon each other. I mean, one of the few times I'll mention politics on the show, because Lord knows I fucking hate politics. But politicians, they prey upon people to stay in power. They tell the voting audience what they want to hear to get reelected or to get elected over the other guy. So they're preying upon what people want, what people need, or at least what they feel people want and need. They're not actually trying to do anything to better anybody's lives. They're just doing what they need to do to maintain their power. So they're preying upon their constituents to maintain power. That's kind of how I read into verse 4 there. Verse 5, he talks about lust and carnal desire being more truthful than love. And I mean, love, like, everyone's like, oh, I fell out of love, love this. Love itself is nothing more than a chemical, pheromone-based reaction. To love, by societal definition, another person, you have to choose to do so. It's not like you can fall in and out of love. You have that carnal attraction, you have that lusting for, you have that pheromone-based euphoria, aka the honeymoon phase when you meet someone. But there is no love. Love as a concept is not real. Like, even our own children, love isn't a thing. We feel this duty to protect them, to guide them, to teach them, to mold them. But love in the societal definition, even that doesn't exist. Not to say that it's the same as the other where we're lusting, because that's just fucking disgusting. But if you have children, it's not so much about love as it is about having that authority to mold and make them into somebody. Like, it's more about the power of it than it is about some imagination derived term like love. In relationships of the adult physical nature, it's definitely lust and carnal desire. Because other than a handful of people, like the eunuchs that he mentions at the end of the verse, everybody is physically attracted to something in this world. If not, there would not be so many sex toys, sex aids. You get the idea. Pornography. Like, it is possible for men and women to be friends, yes, because mutual interests, shared bonds of that nature. But it is wholly impossible to say that you have never once looked upon a member of the opposite sex that fit whatever your description of physical beauty was with a lustful eye. To say you've never pictured yourself doing an inappropriate thing with somebody because you were physically fucking turned on, lust and carnal desire. I think LaVey hits the nail on the head with that one. Love is just a word, a societal construct. You choose to love somebody by doing, quote, good for them. You choose to love them by honoring your commitment to them. But love in and of itself is nothing more than a chemical process in the brain triggered by pheromones. After that initial attraction, it's up to you and your partner to figure out if there is, quote unquote, love that is going to remain. It's just something to think about, because I know in life and in relationships, love is a joke. So in verse 6, he says, love your enemies and do good to them that hate and use you. Is this not the despicable philosophy of the spaniel? He's comparing you to a dog if you love people that are mean to you, like a beaten, broken down dog. The dog that gets kicked and whipped and abused but keeps coming back to its master because it can't figure out what it did wrong, and all it knows is, I'm sorry, love me, I did bad. Like, he's saying you're a scummy ass little fucking animal, you simp ass bitch, if you just come back and take the punishment because you're supposed to love those that abuse you. Basically, I interpret that verse as grow a set, grow the fuck up. Verse 8, he straight says, he who turns the other cheek is a cowardly dog. Like a dog that loves you because you love your animal, you care for your animal, you fulfill the needs of your animal. That is a mutually beneficial relationship. Yes, that is pure love. And LaVey is not against that from what he's saying. He's saying if you're beating the shit out of the dog and rather than ripping your face off with its teeth and its claws, it's simpering and whining and licking your face right after you punched it in its face, then you're a fucking bitch. He says give blow for blow, scorn for scorn, doom for doom, compound interest liberally added. Like if somebody wrongs you, wrong them 100-fold more. Do not be nice. Do not, karma. No, just take what you want. Take yours. Get yours. LaVey is not big on this whole, the universe will sort it out. Oh, karma. Oh, sevenfold the vengeance of the Lord. No, LaVey is like, fuck that. They wronged you, your turn, wrong the fuck out of them so that they think twice before they ever even think about doing it to you again. Who cares if there's any consequence, because there is no significance in the afterlife. LaVey, again, is all about the here and now. Live your life the way you want to. I mean, obviously, today's society, you go beating the fuck out of somebody because they stepped on your toe, you're going to end up in jail. Use it accordingly if this is what you choose to follow. He says that you have to stand up for yourself, make yourself respected in all walks of life. Don't worry about an intangible paradise, but live on forever in the fear and respect garnered through the beatings that you have given to your enemies. So chapter 3, LaVey is again all about the here and now. This time he's saying, fuck love, get your sex on, get your fuck on, get your freak on. If somebody wrongs you, kick the shit out of them and make them think twice before they do it again. That's the short version, my interpretation, short version of that. So that is chapter 3 of the Book of Fire of the Infernal Diatribe. Chapter 4, verses 1 through 5 of the Book of Satan. Life is the great indulgence, death the great abstinence. Therefore make the most of life here and now. There is no heaven of glory bright, and no hell where sinners roast. Here and now is our day of torment. Here and now is our day of joy. Here and now is our opportunity. Choose ye this day, this hour, for no redeemer liveth. Say unto thine own heart, I am mine own redeemer. Stop the way of them that would persecute you. Let those who devise thine undoing be hurled back to confusion and infamy. Let them be as chaff before the cyclone, and after they have fallen, rejoice in thine own salvation. Then all thy bones shall say pridefully, who is like unto me? Have I not been too strong for mine adversaries? Have I not delivered myself by my own brain and body? Now, this is so far the shortest chapter of any of the books of the Satanic Bible. But again, it's just rehashing that same LaVey point. Live in the here and now. Indulge while you're here, because when you're dead, surprise, it all just ends. There's nothing. That's the great abstinence. Can't do nothing, nothing to worry about. No judgment, no torment, no reward, no nothing in the afterlife. Get what you're going to get while you're here, because once you're dead, that's it. Game over. So you might as well live on earth as if it were your heaven, because you're not going to get a chance at some actual heaven, according to LaVey. So the theme of here and now is mentioned multiple times just in verse 2. You heard me emphasize it as I was reading it. So he's saying to choose this day, this hour, this minute, this second, what makes you happy in this life, in your life, because this is your heaven. This is your chance. This is it for you. Live this one chance you have, this one life you have, in such a way that you're going to look back and not feel like you wasted it or your time when you die, because when you die, it is just the endless sleep. There is nothing. You are gone. There is no one. It's just all for naught. So he is very, very clear in chapter 4 of the Book of Satan that it's the here and now that matters, and the afterlife is so insignificant. The only way you're going to live on is through memory, of actions that you performed in life. Chapter 5, verses 1 through 13 of the Book of Satan. Blessed are the strong, for they shall possess the earth. Cursed are the weak, for they shall inherit the yoke. Blessed are the powerful, for they shall be reverenced among men. Cursed are the feeble, for they shall be blotted out. Blessed are the bold, for they shall be masters of the world. Cursed are the righteously humble, for they shall be trodden under cloven hoofs. Blessed are the victorious, for victory is the basis of right. Cursed are the vanquished, for they shall be vassals forever. Blessed are the iron-handed, for the unfit shall flee before them. Cursed are the poor in spirit, for they shall be spat upon. Blessed are the death-defiant, for their days shall be long in the land. Cursed are the gazers toward a richer life beyond the grave, for they shall perish amidst plenty. Blessed are the destroyers of false hope, for they are the true messiahs. Cursed are the God adorers, for they shall be shorn sheep. Blessed are the valiant, for they shall obtain great treasure. Cursed are the believers in good and evil, for they are frightened by shadows. Blessed are those that believe in what is best for them, for never shall their minds be terrorized. Cursed are the lambs of God, for they shall be bled whiter than snow. Blessed is the man who has a sprinkling of enemies, for they shall make him a hero. Cursed is he who doeth good unto others, who sneer upon him in return, for he shall be despised. Blessed are the mighty-minded, for they shall ride the whirlwinds. Cursed are they who teach lies for truth, and truth for lies, for they are an abomination. Thrice cursed are the weak, whose insecurity makes them vile, for they shall serve and suffer. The angel of self-deceit is camped in the souls of the righteous. The external flame of power through joy dwelleth within the flesh of the Satanist. Now, if you notice, as I was reading through that, I put a certain emphasis throughout certain words because those passages, those words that I put the accent, the emphasis on, again, talk about living it up in the flesh, in the earthly, in the here and now. There is nothing in the afterlife. Blessed strong, for you, like the strong people possess the earth. They go get what you want. The ambitious go get things. The entrepreneurs go and get the money, which get the wealth. The wealth gets the girls and the possessions, etc. You know how that goes. Cursed are the weak, for they shall inherit the yoke. These are the people who don't have the cojones to stand up for themselves. So they're going to be basically slaves under the strong. Like, think about a factory setting, right? You have the guy who owns the plant, the guy who supervises the department, the supervisor over your shift, and then all the way down to you, the lowly hourly wage earning person. You are wearing the yoke because you are weak, according to the layout of the Satanic Bible. If you had the ambition, the strength to go after what you wanted, you would be better. You would be one of those people of power who controlled the people underneath instead of being one of the underneath. Talks about the powerful being reverenced among men. Let's see. Blessed are the death-defiant, the people that are just living life to the fullest, doing everything, the daredevils, the ones who are like, I'm going to do it all while I'm here because life's too short and I'm not going to miss out on a chance to do anything, to experience anything. Because they realize that the richness of life is in life itself, the journey, the here, the now. There's nothing after that. Again, it's just the endless sleep, the nothing. It's meaningless. Blessed are those that believe in what is best for them. For never shall their minds be terrorized, because if you're just thinking about yourself, numero uno, feeding the ego, doing everything you want to do, you don't give a fuck about anybody else. And then that same verse turns to, cursed are the lambs of God, for you they shall be bled. Basically, if all you're doing is living your life to honor a deity that we have no earthly proof, again, from LaVey's viewpoint, my views are out of this entirely, but they shall be bled because they're putting all their time into a deity that there's no earthly proof exists. They're too busy doing for that deity rather than for themselves, so they are missing out on life. They are bleeding themselves dry for a cause that doesn't matter, according to LaVey. The angel of self-deceit camped in the souls of the righteous. They lie to themselves about how they're better. Like, if you think back to the first episode with the religious Karens, the religious elite, all the religious that are so righteous and so much better than everyone else, the angel of self-deceit is upon them, because the eternal flame of power through joy, through living your life in a way that you want to live it, that is the way the Satanist lives. He lives to glorify himself, his life, and everything about it in the here and now. Because again, there is nothing after life other than to live on in the memories of those you have affected, be it positively or negatively. But to do so, you have done it in a way that has fed the desires of your ego, yourself, your person. You have gone out and you have made money. You have had fun, food, wine, drugs. You have lived life, getting what you want to get out of it. You've never let anybody conquer you because you are a conqueror. Like, everything about just self-fulfillment before you die. Because that is all that matters, is before you die as a Satanist. So, I mean, Satanism is like a step up from atheism. Atheism believes in nothing. The Satanist believes in the self as the God. So there is still that higher power in yourself. You are constantly to fulfill yourself, praise yourself, worship yourself, do things for yourself. So, I mean, this whole book, this chapter, reads a lot to me like atheism 2.0, for lack of a better. It comes across very self-fulfillment, self-worship, because there's nothing after life. Life is it. Game over, point blank, done, fini, bam, the end. Thanks for playing. As soon as you breathe your last, that's all there is, other than memories. So it's all about self-indulgence and living your life in such a way that you have no regret in the way that you have lived yourself. Like on LaVey's deathbed, the only regret he expressed was that he would not get to see his child grow into adulthood. He had no regrets about the way he lived his life, because at the end of his life, he felt like he had achieved everything he wanted to, so his life was one well spent. And on that note, we ended Fire, the Book of Satan, the Infernal Diatribe. Next week's episode, we will be starting Air, the Book of Lucifer, the Enlightenment. So, again, my personal, religious, spiritual, whatever word you want to use, beliefs are completely moot when it comes to a twist of faith. My whole purpose with this is just to explain, interpret, try to help define what is said in some of the texts. I may take a different approach at interpretation than somebody else who were to study the Satanic Bible, though honestly I can say I've not seen many people attempt it, so I'll give myself a pat on the back for that one. Pat. But don't take everything I say as law, as like supreme truth. Just it's an interpretation. I try to be as unbiased as possible. There's some things LaVey says where, like, in the last episode last week, I get really into it, and I'm like, holy shit, I gotta expand on this a little bit, because damn. But for the most part, I'm just going through it, reading it, trying to explain it. If you listen to what I have to say and you decide, damn, LaVey's a fucking genius, I'm a Satanist now, more power to you, by all means. If you're like, holy shit, he's literally the devil, I gotta go find God, and you decide, I'm a Christian now, by all means. Like, my whole purpose is just to explain, to define, to interpret. And I say this almost every episode. I just want you to think. Think that thought. Think something new. Like, pause, reflect. Take a look at your life through the lens of whatever religion is being discussed. I mean, there's parts in the Satanic Bible where I'm like, holy shit. So at times I've lived like a Satanist. Well, would you look at that? Doesn't mean I am a Satanist. But again, there's nothing wrong with that if that's what you choose. Life is about choices. Life is about living. I guess it's ultimately up to you as to whether or not you believe that, like LaVey, life ends with death, or other religions, you believe there is some form of afterlife, rebirth, continuance. And I'm not telling you which way to go. I'm just showing you your options, explaining different little non sequiturs from each one. Like, hey, in Christianity, they do this, this, and this. A lot of religious asshats think this, but it's really this because that's what the Bible says and that's what they follow. In the Satanic Bible, Satanists, they don't actually have this whole devil worship thing that they're oh so well known for, because if you read the Satanic Bible, you realize you're your own God. You're supposed to be worshiping yourself. You're supposed to be living your life to your ultimate praise and reverence in such a way that makes you feel like you have fulfilled the purpose of your existence in your life, because it ends and that's it and you're done. So you got to do it all while you're alive. Obviously, there's more religions, but as those are the only two I've even come close to touching on as of yet in the podcast, those are the only examples I'm going to give in this moment. But any religion you choose is fine. Any belief you choose is fine. Again, I'm going to quote Kevin Smith because I love Dogma. If you haven't seen it, I know it's damn near impossible to get a copy these days unless you're willing to shell out like $70 on eBay. I was fortunate enough to get a physical copy back when it was like actually out, and I've just held on to it forever. But Kevin Smith in Dogma, he says, well, not him, but the character says, wars are fought over beliefs. It's better to just have an idea. It's a paraphrase, but that's basically the point. Like, don't get so stuck on a set of beliefs that you're willing to do some dumb shit over it. Just use it as a basis for your life. Like I said in a previous episode, I was raised Roman Catholic. Obviously, I'm not Roman Catholic to this day, but a lot of what I was raised with shaped who I am as a person. But then there's also my dad with his most closely Buddhist associations as far as his views, from what I can gather. He's been gone for many years now. But all of his beliefs, like I read Siddhartha after he passed, he willed me a copy of it to read it. And he said, read this and you'll understand. And I understand a lot better his beliefs. They did, in that context, bring me peace regarding his death. It doesn't mean that I believe everything I read, but it's very well written to the point where you kind of like with the Satanic Bible, there's certain parts LaVey is just like, well, this, do this for you. Why the hell are you going to be nice to somebody if they're a dickbag to you? Like, why aren't you going to question things? Like, regardless of the religious, the spiritual belief system, the dogmatic influence, regardless of whatever the fuck it is, you should be able to look at it and be like, that's a pretty goddamn good point. I have a pretty good idea about that now. Like, you don't have to ascribe to any one religion if you don't want to. Even if you are the most diehard Christian alive, you believe, even under those circumstances, that you are given free will by God. That is part of the Christian faith, dogma, text, all of it. Free will. Man has the power to choose. So, even if you are a diehard Christian, you cannot disagree with what I am telling you, that you do not have to believe any one religion. You can argue for days upon day upon day upon day about what happens based on what you choose to believe, but you cannot argue that you are free to believe what you want. LaVey clearly says, hey, believe what the fuck you want, but just make sure that you're living your life the way you want to, because you're your own God and there ain't no fucking afterlife, so don't waste your goddamn time. But there is nothing anywhere that binds you to the idea of having only one religious influence, one religious belief, one religious idea. Nothing. Just like every other time I talk, I'm going to tell you, individuals are capable of great thought. Individuals are. Once they become groups of people, then you tend to fall into groupthink, which is about as toxic as it can possibly come. Think for yourself, act for yourself, be for yourself. Because ultimately, in this world, you are the only person you answer to. In that regard, I believe LaVey was correct. This has been A Twist of Faith. As always, I am your host, Alex Parkview. I would like to thank you for joining me as I finish out Fire, the Book of Satan, the Infernal Diatribes. Tune in next week, where I will start Air, the Book of Lucifer, the Enlightenment. I am aiming to cover at least the preface and the first couple of chapters. Tangents aside, we'll see what happens. I may just go nuts again like I did last week. Check that out if you haven't yet. It was kind of fun. As always, on whatever platform you're listening, I would just ask you to subscribe, rate, review, share. Please share this out. Word of mouth is a beautiful thing. Even if it's not like something you're into, but you know somebody who's struggling to find, understand, choose whatever, a faith, a religion, a spiritual belief, I would like to think that maybe I'm capable of helping them do so. If not with this, with future episodes. As always, you can contact me at twistoffaithpodcast, all one word, at gmail.com. Any love mail, hate mail, idea mail, any kind of mail, just knock it out. If you feel so inclined to support my work, you can always donate through the link that they give on the episodes. I have Cash App, all that stuff, but I don't really use it for this. I mean, if you email me and ask, I'll probably give it to you. Not really, whatever, but every little bit helps with getting research materials. But the biggest thing I can ask you to do is subscribe and share. Subscribe, share. And I will see you all next week when we get into the next part of my deep dive of the Satanic Bible. It's been my pleasure. I hope you enjoyed A Twist of Faith.